let's begin with the next panel of the day. The topic is cloud-based compliance management systems and their importance to the retail industry, powered by Aparajitha. Join me in welcoming our panelists, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Chauhan, Director, HR Pepe Jeans India Limited. Let's put our hands together and welcome Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Chauhan. Farzeen Khan, CHRO, 4 Aces Fashion House Private Limited, Being Human Clothing. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Ms. Farzeen Khan. Mandavi Singh, Customer Care Associate and AVP, DIT, Digital and Information Technology Shoppers Stop Limited. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Ms. Mandavi Singh. Prashant Bhokil, Group CTO and CISO, Finquest Group of Companies. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the stage, Mr. Prashant Bhokil. And Mr. Rohit Kedare, Head Core HR, Wellness Forever. Let's put our hands together and welcome Mr. Rohit Kedare. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And now to moderate this panel, join me in welcoming Dr. Venu Murthy, CTO, Aparajitha Corporate Solutions Pvt. Limited. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the stage our moderator for this panel, Dr. Venu Murthy. Over to you.
All right. Can you hear me at the last? Yeah? Superb. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Venu Murthy here. You can call me Venu. And the objective that we have for this particular session is that we all want to give you some takeaways from this particular session, actually, right? This particular topic that we have chosen, which is compliance, is a bit, it's not a regular kind of a day-to-day thing that you get exposed to, right? At least for me, that was the case. Being a technologist with 2 decades of experience, when we had to start our own startup, there were so many regulations, there was so much of compliance that we didn't know actually. So while everyone felt technology is tough, that was something very easy for us. And I have been fortunate to actually have even worked in a company which is the 2nd toughest company to join in the world, and having 2 decades of experience, and also having worked for the 2nd largest retailer in the world for their cloud implementation. But still, compliance was something which was a very gray area for all of us, which might be the case for some of you. Can you raise your hands? Does anyone feel compliance is something that you need to build your strength on? Right? Superb. Very few actually, so which means you're all compliance experts. So, right? So which means that this panel is going to include all of you as well. So the bottom line is our objective is for you to take away some actionable points to make your company a little more compliant and not have to deal with risks that this particular topic brings to you. And I represent my company Aparajitha, so which is having 24 years of experience in compliance space. Our headquarters is in Madurai, but we have an office every 200 kilometers. And we have some amazing clients. With 24 years of service experience, Aparajitha stands out as the #1 in compliance in India. And so this is like the marriage of two. Aparajitha was dealing with the complexities of compliance, and I was dealing with the complexities of being able to bring digital transformation to most of the companies which are not in the tech space. So that is when the concept of compliance is born. Does anyone know what could compliance mean? Right? We want to simplify compliance. We want to make it as DIY as possible. You need not depend on someone to do your compliance actually. The compliance, we want to empower all of you to be able to do compliance for yourself. So with that vision, we had this Aparajitha Compliance, which is trying to productize the 24 years of service experience that we have in this field. So on that front, we'll just get started. So one of the most interesting things is, I'm 100% sure you'll have a lot to take away because the panel that we have here is an esteemed panel with rich and diverse experience. Like, these are all the names that we have already seen, right? So we are so fortunate to have all of you here to share your experience in this space. So on that front, I would request each one of you to share a little bit about the topic that we have chosen actually. Right?
So good morning, everyone. My name is Rohit. I represent Wellness Forever. Been into this industry, the domain of human resources for last 15 years and has been closely monitoring the compliance ecosystem evolving over the period of time. So today's topic, when I just got the call, that I have to speak about this topic, I was quite excited, to share my experience. So about the cloud computing, initially when we started, we were on the books and papers in order to have our compliances in place. Today, everything is on the digital platform. We just, since morning, we just saw that, there are DG lockers and there are so much of digital transformation happening. Compliance being the core part of any business to sustain in any country, in globe, has become very, very critical. So I'm sure that, in today's discussion, we would be able to put some light in detail. But what I feel, as a professional working for the corporates, this particular domain has always been in the back end, not much light put onto it, but this is the backbone of any business. So let's discuss, in a further conversations.
Hello, good morning all. Myself Prashant Prakash. I was shocked when I was called on this panel because this is a HR summit and I am representing technology field. I am having total 25 plus years of experience in the field of technology. But when I came across the topic, then I realized that why I am here. So yes, nowadays, making compliance with silo systems or manual processes becomes a very challenging task. So yes, technology enables the compliance at ease. So yes, we will definitely discuss about these things. I will share my experience from the technology side of the compliance part of it. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I represent Shopper Stop here, and I manage the technology applications. So same as Prashant, I was a little surprised to be called in for an HR event. But the fact is that technology and any other business function, HR or anything else, is now so heavily integrated that you really can't separate the two. It has to be absolutely non-intrusive. It has to be mingled with whatever you are doing as your main job function. And I'm happy to talk about some of the compliance initiatives that we are taking at our organization. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Farzeen from Being Human Clothing. I think my co-panelists have spoken from HR side and technology side both. Yes, I represent the HR vertical, but I think compliance is a topic which needs collaboration across different functions. And I would actually like to speak more about it during the entire session, along with the other nuances which we need to ensure that we are taking care of before implementing any new agendas or any new transformations in the organization.
So good morning, this is Dr. Sanjeev here. So My take is that basically, first I would like to introduce, I am very much interested in law, and law has been very core to my heart. That is what we were discussing with Dr. Venu, because I'm PhD in law. So that's why my subject, curiosity to get into law, and just to give a very simple thought, when Simpliance came in, that time Captain D'Souza was the first person who came 2015 to me to ask me how I take off this particular Simpliance software, and he showed me the Simpliance software. I was very happy to see that, and later I think Simpliance took over from them. One thing, I will tell you one thing very clearly, most of you will not understand, will understand this better. The compliance looks very easy, but the cost of non-compliance is very big, right? And with very heavy heart, I say that most of our HR feel that compliance is a secondary function, not a primary function. I think otherwise. I feel that if the CHRO or in any HR professional is good at compliance, you can find the compliance being embedded in anything, including your appointment letter also, right? You can put all the things into clause. So with that tone, I am very happy that today we'll have a lot of insights, what are challenges we face and what are the issues we face in retail. So I've been in almost for 15 years in retail as a CHRO. So I will give my insights when when the session goes further. Thank you very much.
All right. So what we hear our esteemed panelists sharing is saying compliance is like the core part of any business. It's the backbone, and technology only enables it, right? Just like technology is actually making things so easy for all of us, right? And some of our panelists also said that it's like an absolute must. And one of the beautiful things Farzeen said is, it's not a single function actually. You cannot have a person who is completely responsible for compliance. Just like data security is not a single person's responsibility. It is a cross-functional, it is a collaborative effort actually, right? And like Dr. Sanjeev said, compliance looks easy. It's easy because he's PhD in law actually, not for all of us, right? But yes, the costs of which are very high, in the sense that cost could be something, could also be notional, right? So on that front, I would like to ask, like say, Prashant, on like how does compliance management systems contribute to building trust with, say, the stakeholders, customers, investors, and in the retail sector actually?
So, whenever talking about or to start on this particular subject, I would like to share a few of my previous experiences I had throughout the journey. So, as rightly said by Dr. Sanjeev, that cost is not a big thing, but still, whenever we are budgeting our expenses, usually we have seen that this type of costs are being omitted or neglected, because there are many other things. From the technology side, yes, because we always give priorities to digital transformation, cloud migration, or the ERP kind of budgeting part. But whenever we think about this particular point, compliance, which is a very important thing, but yes, the cost is not being budgeted or neglected at the time of budgeting. Later on, I might have very heated discussions with my CHROs also for budgeting this part. And later stages, being in a retail company or for a retail domain, compliance is more important, because now we are also need to be compliant for DPDP also. Whenever DPDP, in the purview of DPDP, not only the customers, but employees are also your customers. So you have to make sure that the personal data of your employee has to be compliant properly. So right now I'm working for an organization where I'm not only handling retail, but we are handling financial securities also. So in that part, compliance, that means the CHRO's job is very crucial and critical, because he has to comply for everything. And if that has to be done with a silo systems, which are not integrated with your softwares or the, what we can say, standard payment softwares or HRMS, then that is the biggest challenge in the era. So it has to be compliant and it has to be integrated. This is my view for this subject.
Excellent. Very well articulated actually. So while how many of you think compliance is for us, for our safety, or is it something that is there to derail your business? How many of you think it's for our safety? That's all. Come on, raise your hands, guys. No lunch otherwise. See, compliances, the regulations that are being rolled out are to protect actually. They are to protect us as customers, as say service providers. So they are not something which are there to derail the business. They are there to increase the efficiency actually. So Prashant so beautifully said that, say for example, the Data Protection Act itself. Does anyone know how many years a company can retain the employee's information? Can someone answer this? As per the regulation, how many years can we retain an employee's information? 7 years, and after that? You're right actually, right? You have to retain as per the compliance, regulatory compliance, you can retain an employee's information only for 7 years, not beyond that, right? So these are some of the nuances of compliance, right? Beautiful. All right, and then one of the main things I think, now that we have all got the acceptance, we are open to exploring what is compliance, right? Now, and we know the importance of compliance, because very soon, as you see, any company which is declared as not being compliant, what happens to its valuation? Can someone answer this? What happens to a company who comes in the news saying they are not compliant with a particular regulation? Do their stocks go up or go down? Down, right? So it's one of the core actually, right? Like Prashant so beautifully said, it's the backbone actually. So now we will ask Dr. Sanjeev, who is an expert on this topic, on what are the challenges that he might have encountered for retailers to get compliant actually.
Yeah, thank you, Venu. See, the challenges which I found actually since last 15 years I'm in retail, so I'm just telling my own experience. First problem which I found is, the attrition rate. When the attrition rate is on very higher side in the retail, it's very difficult to comply. Why? Because we get them on the board. Sooner I bring the person on the board, we come to know that he has already left. Now, how do we keep them on the compliance side, right? That one. And also, in order to maintain their, the documentation, the KYCs, that also becomes very challenging for us. So one of the biggest challenges we talk about the attrition rate. The second challenge which I feel which is there in retail is about seasonal employment. See, on Durga Puja or in Diwali, we deploy a lot of people on retail. What happens, these people, certainly they are required to work to meet our business requirement. So it's very tough for us to maintain their, what you call the overtime and the working hours, their, the health and safety, whatever the concerns are there, that becomes a challenging role. Third challenge, which I feel which is more important, is thus that basically the compliance across states are different, right? The central act is different and the state acts are different, and the compliance level is much more required. So in order to have that regulatory framework where the central as well as state regulations can be met, it sometimes becomes very challenging. So that's one we also face, a lot of problems, particularly give an example in case of professional tax, right? So professional tax, it applies in one state, it doesn't apply in the other state. That becomes a big issue. Third is, in our level, we recently, we are working on a tool. How do we work in there is that basically we have trained our store managers and given them the rights on whatever the compliance the store has. So what happens when any labor inspector or any official comes and wants to know the compliance standard, we educate them, train them, and basically they can just open on their website, on the portal, and show all the compliance documents which are already there, and we keep on doing regular audit, right? Now, this plays a very important role in keeping them compliant. Now, more important role is also in terms of, the very sensitive act called as POSH or the bribery. These issues also we face a lot of problems in terms of, taking the people along. So I feel the going ahead, the new wage code which are coming in, the technology iCloud is going to play, it is going to be the key. I understand Aparajitha is also working on those front, and there are more players who are coming in this. But believe me, going forward, the technology will be the main, which will be dealing with compliance. It will not be more human intervention. Everything will be on your dashboard. So we need to move on to technology as early as possible. Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. So that was truly edifying, actually. And so one of the, I think the key points that he brought up was the attrition rate, which is so very high in retail, and having the ability to maintain the KYC. At the same time, how do you manage the seasonal employment? By seasonal employment, do you mean the contract labor and?
At the time of the business, maybe on the festive mood, we deploy people for a very, a part-time employment or a short-term employment. That becomes a problem for us to comply.
Very, very true. Very true. So, and then how do you deal with things like, say, the professional tax, and then, so these are some of the challenges. Any challenges that you feel we haven't covered and that you might be facing, and if there is something that the panelists can actually help you out with? Other than by like trying to be awake and be attentive to what we are saying, actually, right? It's getting challenging, isn't it? Happens. Okay, fine. So, moving on to Farzeen. So one of the things, questions that I had for her is, how do you as the CHRO, the leader, integrate compliance into your business strategies and do the budget allocation for it?
I think, ultimately everything boils down to the money, which is important. But what I feel is this compliance strategy has to be core to the business strategy. It cannot be at a hindsight and then we say that, we are able to mitigate the risk or, also be a part of a growing organization where expansion is also at the spree and, in fact, usage of new AI tools. Anything and everything which you do into innovation has to do with compliance. What I feel is that the core to the business strategy has to be compliance across all levels, whether it is innovation into products, whether new systems to be in place, or for that matter, even expansion in new product categories or new geographies. Because even if you're looking at, expanding to a new geography, the law of the land has to be compliant with what you're trying to do and giving it to the end consumer. Allocating budgets, I feel, is, and we've been able to kind of do that in the past almost more than a decade right now, where I feel, and as I mentioned earlier, was close cross collaboration with different teams. And when you have the alignment with the finance team and the IT team, and the goal is one which needs to be achieved for the organization, I think it does wonders. And allocating budgets, I feel, has to be at the initial stage rather than, a reactionary measure where you try to be compliant when something is actually gone wrong. And now you say that how do we kind of, mitigate this and then pay some penalties and okay, now ensure that, nothing is going to crop up in future. So I think that's something which is very crucial, and that needs to be done at day one when even our annual operating plan is kind of made at the start of the year. What I feel is, budgets which organizations keep at bay, that starts actually right from innovation and technological advancement, which is very, very important in today's world, is because Whether you say it's training, so you need, to train people on the parameters of ethical usage of AI or certain other tools. Also looking at, something which is as basic as cyber security, which is responsibility of not only the IT department, but also the people who feed in the data in the system. And also, to a certain extent, nowadays, I say not only retail, but every industry today has a lot of pressure on sustainability, governance, and, so on and so forth in terms of, I think that today's Gen Z and Gen Ys are actually looking at sustainable products. What is the organization doing at that level wherein, we need to actually put aside certain budgets for that compliance as well, along with the other budgets which I just mentioned. And last but not the least, I feel that there are various tools which are available, today, not only from a compliance pertaining to any particular department, but there are tools today which are available which kind of integrate between all your functions of legal, IT, and finance, and which actually gets married to all the different portals which is being used and is working wonders. And then you actually not tend to miss any deadlines, and it's like an autopilot mode which keeps running. But all this will happen with only pesa, and pesa. So that has to be done and budgeted at the start, is what I feel. And that can help you and the organization mitigate risk at, I think, any level for that matter. I hope I've answered the question.
Beautiful. Thank you, Farzeen. So primarily, Farzeen has been able to enlighten us on, say, compliance strategies has to be the core of our business strategy, because at the end of the day, it all adds up. It does impact your revenue as well. And it also facilitates, say, for example, if you want to expand into new geographic areas, right? It's good if you start at a good right footing by knowing the local laws, by being compliant. You might all know the story of Tatas, right? They had to move to the geographical opposite of where they started from, right? So we can avoid such big costs when we know, when we have the compliance knowledge and we are able to apply it in our expansion plan. And it is an integrated effort between all the different functions, and hence it would be great if it's not a reactionary measure where once you get slapped with a notice, then you allocate a budget and then you go and try to figure out. And there's also a kind of an extortion that happens, right? The person who is going to save you is going to extort significantly. So instead of this, you could have a partner or have some tools with which you can preempt these kind of notices and being compliant, which actually affects your branding at the long end, actually, at the end. So now moving on to say, to Rohit actually, how has digitization transformed compliance management in retail, and what benefits does this bring to businesses managing multiple legal frameworks?
Right, so I'll just put my thoughts together for the word digitization. So this word we have been discussing only post-pandemic, right? So, I represent Wellness Forever, and we were even operating during pandemic. So where the entire country was under the lockdown, my employees were at the stores serving the RX medicines, which is the prescribed drugs, as well as the NX, which is the narcotics drugs. And from there, there was a discussion started in our boardroom that we lack digitization. Why? Because we were not able to track how many number of employees were reporting to the stores on daily basis during pandemic. And from there, I would like to pick it up. It's been like close to around a couple of years we are out of pandemic, and I am sure that most of the organizations are struggling to even identify and understand what kind of technology should we buy or should we go for, because there is plenty amount of applications out there in the market. when we discuss, about technology, it is a huge chaos and confusion. We don't know what scale and line and length, what breadth that we wanted to take the technology and use it. So number one thing that I feel from the digitization perspective is the buying what technology. So hence we are, attending and meeting around a lot of CTOs of the organizations in the industry, try to understand what fits the bill, in my organization. So what I feel is first is the identifying the technology. The second one is, even if you identify the right technology from an HR standpoint, it is very important that the HR technology, the HR software should talk to the business software. We talk about the AOPs and we talk about the P&L. There is only one thing that, very, very common about the P&L, that is the cost center. If the cost center of the business is not match up with the HR cost center, then there are two universes that we are talking about in an organization. That is what the digitization is all about, and that is where the digitization lacks. Right? So how are we going to combine and how the cost centers talk to each other? There is a struggle that the ERP doesn't talk to the HR systems. And what HR systems caters today is the core of the business, that is the people. And what we pay to the people is the salaries. And salaries, also has compliance attached to it. So everything is chained and everything is, related to each other. That is the second thing that, my observation is that the business technology doesn't talk to the HR technology. Number three, even does it talks, it requires a lot of integration. You have been, hearing about APIs, you have been hearing about the cloud. I know from a desktop-based software I started my career with, we went to the web-based softwares. Today we are talking about the SaaS products. Today we are talking about, the products, the subscription-based model products. And everything is about the cloud seeding and keeping the, information in the cloud. The information used to be on our floor in our servers. We have the, tech experts here, they will understand me better, that there used to be server 1, server 2, server 3. Now everything is on the cloud. Now moving to the cloud, brings its own risk at the play. Why? Because even government of India is becoming, very, very digital. It's not only government of India, but the global governments are becoming very, very digital in nature, right? And from the compliance perspective, government has a very clear mandate to it. You just, see how fast the ITR has become, how fast returns that you get, within a week's time. So that is what you have experienced for yourself. So integration is something what I feel is a struggle to most of the professionals sitting out here in this room. The fourth one is about the dashboards. Today, most of the HRs are sitting and preparing the dashboards. So I was talking to, Venu that the most of the qualitative time of any employee in an organization goes on an Excel sheet, preparing the dashboards. Rather, the digitization should give us directly an insightful dashboards where the actionable pointers should come out, and an employee's 9 hours, 8 hours, whatever working that an employee puts into should put on the action front. And the only thing that ends up, we end up discussing in the boardroom is the people in the organization are not reactive, proactive. We have to be proactive. And the people can be proactive only when the technology of the organization is to the point. It's not complex. The complexity can be in the back end. But at the user interface, it has to be simple and usable in nature. So fourth point that I wanted to make from the digitization perspective is the dashboards needs to be prepared by the digitization platform and not by the humans by themselves. Number 5, and the last point to this topic, is adaptability. Number 1, if we ask about ourselves how, literate we are to use the technology. Organization might approve the budgets in the AOP that, bring crores worth of rupees of the product on the table. But are we investing enough in our employees and making them enabled to use the technology? Because I have seen to my experience that the technology getting broken because we still love our Excel sheets, right? If I give a platform to my team and I ask them to, generate the payroll system, but they will still download that file and send it for an approval to the finance team, right? So that doesn't work that way. Everything needs to be stitched together in a single platform. And adaptability is something which I feel it is going to be a journey, because we just started understanding technology, we just started talking about it, and it is going to be a long way. Coming to the compliance part of it, doing businesses in India is becoming quite difficult, because the regulatory authorities are becoming very tight with the law.
Agreed.
Why?
Yes.
Because the law was written only on the pen and paper initially. Now everything is in the form of digital policies. Even the provident fund, you see, it is heavily digitally monitored. You take any act, whether it is Minimum Wages Act, it is ESIC Act, whether it is the Factories Act, Industrial Relations Act. You take any kind of an act, everything has been seeded digitally, and everything is getting monitored. If anything starts getting monitored, the business has to start, observing, because they're observing their compliances and have their audit systems very, very strict, so that, the compliances can't be breached. At the same time, knowing that we are breaching the compliance is very, very important, and technology is the only option that is going to tell us what are we breaching and what we are not breaching. So this is my take on digitization from the compliance perspective.
Splendid, Rohit. Fantastic, actually. So I think you just took us on a complete journey of how digitization helps you to run your business, have a continued business presence despite the pandemic, to having dashboards and right, a complete compliance journey, actually. So in the interest of time, there is so much I can summarize, but in the interest of time, I'll just put one last question to Mandavi on the ease of acceptance you might have in adopting cloud-based compliance management solutions.
So I think it's not really specific to cloud-based. For any solution, the ease of adoption depends on how non-intrusive it is to my work. If I am a payroll person and I am doing my regular payroll work, and along with that, it's also capturing compliance data and reporting, then it becomes easy for me to use. A compliance system, whether cloud-based or otherwise, shouldn't be a system where I do my work and then I have to go and do something somewhere else in order to get reported. Like Rohit pointed out, the dashboards and all are important, and they have to be done automatically. Other thing is that there are apprehensions, and I use the word apprehensions because it is sensitive data that we are talking about in the cloud. So how intelligently, how securely we are managing the organization data, that is one of the top priorities that comes to an organization when we choose a system, when we look at a cloud thing. So while compliance is an organization mandate, it's not an HR mandate, right? The organization has to be compliant. Therefore, all departments have to work to make it compliant. And in this case, the cloud technology has to also be compliant to the other aspects. Like, for example, we'll do an audit of the technology, whether we pass all the parameters. So this is really sensitive data that we are talking about, and the organization's entire data. So these are my 2 points on how do you make it easy to use. You make it compliant in the first place to the other organization value. Like if I am going through an audit, the tool should be able to be auditable and pass the audit. And the technology should be non-intrusive and woven in my regular work. So these are the 2 things. I just want to take a moment and say that we talked about the cost of compliance not being very high, which is true. The cost of non-compliance can be very high. Excellent. So it is extremely important that we take this seriously and we work towards it of making this a success. So, thanks.
Fantastic, Mandavi. So I think that's one of the tagline that anyone can use, right? Cost of compliance is not high, but non-compliance is. So fantastic. So when some of the things like one of the main sensitive areas like that Mandavi was pointing to is, like say you are saving your financial data, company's financial data. you're saving your employees' personal data. So these are all some of the very sensitive areas, and on that front, there are some regulatory bodies which ensure that even if it's a cloud system, the data protection has been put in place actually. Can anyone answer this on what is that certifying agency or what is that certification called? Come on, I'll take you for a treat actually, if you answer it. Anyone heard of ISO 27001? Right? So this is primarily, certification is primarily to ensure that even if it's a cloud service provider, the data is completely safe and protected, encrypted. And then there is one more international governing body. Can anyone take a guess what it might be? Something similar to say ISO 27001. Heard of SOC 2? Right? So these are some of the, when you're choosing a cloud solution for compliance, which should have a sole intent of being able to provide the ease of compliance actually. So in that case, always look for these certifications, because we should not always look at the cost, but just like protecting the data is not expensive, but a data breach can weigh very heavily upon a company. So on that front, we just have a few minutes left, and just want to pass it on to the audience and see if they have any questions for our panelists here actually. Any questions, any struggles that you might be having with compliance in your organization? And no questions? All right then. Thank you so much to each one of you.